pour over James Gunn's lineup for the new DCU and even name some of our suggested cast and crew. And let me tell you folks, James Gunn didn't just let the info trickle out, he turned on the fire hose on full blast. Non-comic book fans beware, we're going deep today. What did you think when you saw the James Gunn announcement?
My jaw dropped. I got completely distracted at work. I stopped whatever I was doing, and I just had a long, hard think about what kind of a world I was living in, that such beautiful things could exist. If there's been a company right now that has no fucking idea what they've invested in or bargained on over the last 20 fucking years of or more, I would say even going all the way back to Tim Burton's Batman, Warner Brothers had no fucking clue what they were doing. And all of their successes that they've ever had have been totally and completely accidental, or totally due to the creatives and talent involved, whether it be the actors and the directors and screenwriters and so on. So to see them finally have a coherent vision and someone with appreciation and knowledge, for the source material, everything that has come out about the future of DC cinema, has me absolutely euphoric. I believe in God again, basically. Where were you when you saw the notification and the headline that suddenly all questions were answered all in one day, complete with a timeline, and it wasn't even San Diego Comic-Con yet? Why is he why are we just getting it all right now, front loaded, we had a streaming session with our uncle who spends way too much time reading Golden Age comic books?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, there was rumors that this was going to happen on, Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And, I kind of chalked it up to just being kind of some lame thing where they're just going to tease, barely tease stuff. And when I opened, I saw the video and I opened the video, it was 5 minutes and 53 seconds. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be nothing. And then I watched the video and it's just so much info packed in such a short amount of time. And yeah, what this tells me is, looking at the plan as a whole, 30,000 feet view, they're learning the right lessons from the MCU and they're doing stuff on their own that seems inspired. They're doing things that seem like they're smart to do on their own, and they're learning lessons from the MCU, and it's going to be their spin on things, and I think I have a lot of hope for this.
As do I, because from a lot of the I guess I'll call them right-wing nerd contingent online, and even from dudes like Film Threat, there's a lot of skepticism and concern that they're going about things the wrong way. I, for one, am fucking glad that they've done away with this idea that they can just silo TV on the CW and have it have nothing to do with the movies. I've been calling for this from the fucking beginning, and they're doing it. We're gonna have a complete, at least, coherence, when appropriate, or, always. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. But between, even animated and live action, we're gonna have the same actors voicing people. And things like that, I don't know. Every right decision that they haven't made, they now seem to be making. And yeah, I think some people just need to stop. I am going to be one of those people. I'm in full nerd crew right now. Stop being a hater and just be open to the idea that maybe we can trust this guy to not just give us a pile of steaming shit over and over and over again, because that is what Warner Brothers executives have been content to do for years now. I'm sorry, not to belabor it, but we should just talk about what we learned, because right off the bat, we found out that what the future, is going to be after Cavill, and it's All-Star Superman is basically the vibes we're being given. A movie called Superman Legacy. What can you tell us about that before we get into our casting our fan casting selections.
Yeah, so this is probably the one we got the most info about. He said specifically he's writing it, and he's thinking about directing it. He doesn't know yet if he's going to direct it.
Kevin Feige can't do that. Kevin Feige can't direct a movie.
Yeah. And it's specifically not an origin story, so that's good. Don't want to see that again. And the only other real like bit of info he said is our Superman is a big galoot with one weakness. He doesn't want to hurt a living soul, and that's kind of where he left it. So.
Okay, so he's definitely not Snyder Soups, who, when in duress, when given no choice between like a dead child and dead Zod, he will snap his neck. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so this guy won't be splattering people. Yeah. Okay, that's reassuring, but. Who do we think is going to play Superman?
Yeah,
who is your dream? I guess now it's been revealed. It popped up on screen.
Yeah. So my sort of, I guess if I had, this is kind of my suggested casting, I guess.
Okay.
It would probably be Matt Bomer as Superman. I think he has the look. I think he's the right age for this type of Superman. And. Yeah, he's played Superman before too in one of or two of the animated DC films,
and he's gay Superman too.
Yeah, so that'll please a lot of people too.
Yeah.
So, and I think that this movie, with these first two that we're gonna be, or no, I guess the first and the third one we're gonna talk about, you want to go safe. I think, because you don't want to put your heavy hitters in the hands of some idiot. And so Christopher McQuarrie directing. And the reason why I say that is because he can do the large scale of Superman without relying 100% on CGI. He's known for those practical effects and those practical stunts. And he's a action director that actually also makes good films. He doesn't make good action films. He makes just good films, period. And so he has a lot of experience. He can also, he has a lot of script writing experience too. So he could make some edits to Gunn's script if he needs to. And so that's kind of my choice.
Gotcha. Right on. Respectable. McQuarrie makes a lot of sense. He's kind of the guy when it comes to action directing, I'd say. And I went in a completely different direction as far as the directors go, because Benson and Moorhead, I think, really proved themselves with everything they were able to accomplish with Moon Knight. But I want to see what they can do with a character that the company that they're working for actually cares about. So like I want to see them have more control, because these dudes are really heady, and I want to see what they can do with a bigger mantle of responsibility. I know that it's probably not safe, but yeah, this is my suggestion. I know they're probably not going to pick him, but I really like Jack Rayner. As like truly a younger Supes. He's probably maybe a little too young, but I just really like the man's energy, and I've liked him in everything I've ever seen him in. So I want to throw the boy a bone and see what he can do with it. So that What about villain? Did you think about that at all? Who you'd want as the villain? Who haven't we really seen yet? And I guess I think Brainiac's time has come. Because I'm tired of Lex. We don't need Lex Luthor again. We don't need Doomsday. We don't need Zod. We've already seen all of that. And what do I think would fit the Gunniverse the best? I think it's to get Brainiac involved. I guess that's my perspective.
Yeah, that would totally make sense. The way that I kind of went with it was I would like to see Metallo.
Interesting.
But as sort of the movie's main villain, but he's sort of being funded and rebuilt through Lex Luthor.
That makes more sense.
Because that's And Lex Luthor, I think Lex Luthor is a good like overarching villain. The guy sort of in the background who's, like funding everything, or he's behind the scenes on everything, and maybe save him for like the third film in the series or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, Metallo. That we've never seen Metallo in live action, and I think that would be really cool.
Right on. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that question. Because yeah, that's where we're coming from with that. Hang on, I gotta advance through some stuff here to catch up to the next movie, which is interesting. But I guess I don't really know where it's coming from because I haven't read the series that really inspired it. But we are going to be getting a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie, right?
Yep.
A movie.
Yes.
And this is a Tom King series originally, or like a run, I guess, that is really they're taking their cues from. And is this just going to be really cosmic and metal?
Well, the actual comic it's often described as a sci-fi western. Essentially, the sort of one sentence plot synopsis is Supergirl is sort of down on her luck and depressed, and a alien little girl finds her and basically recruits her to help get revenge on the people who killed her parents.
Fuck
The,
yeah,
or the
bro.
aliens that killed her parents. So
Fuck yeah,
it's
bro.
it's kind of yeah, sci-fi western is kind of what it's described as. And have you read a lot of Tom King or any Tom King at all?
Very little, here and there. I've read
Okay.
some of his stuff, but not enough to like. I don't have not an authority by any means, but I understand why he's being drawn from and why he gets every writing gig under the sun these days.
He's very good. His a lot of his stuff is very very good. And my question though is I don't know how well his stuff is going to translate to
Yeah.
film without like changing it up a bit because Tom King's works are generally very wordy and very low action and like
Oh.
every character has some sort of some sort of abnormality. They're all depressed. They all
Oh.
have some sort of mental problems. That's the way that Tom King writes. He writes very much from we'll talk about it a little bit later, but when I heard the plot synopsis for that Booster Gold series, I thought of Tom King immediately. And so
Okay.
um
Interesting.
so yeah, it's I don't know. I think they'll probably change it up a lot.
They're gonna have to
Uh,
because they
yeah.
always talk big about being inspired by all these series that people love, but not even Jeff Johns could force Hollywood to like go that comic book. But maybe Gunn and Safran can, because yeah, if they're gonna mirror the plots of that series at all, that's fucking awesome. But how do you make that work within the continuity that you're crafting as well? That has to be the question. Because if Marvel's does anything amazingly, it's actually finding a way to seed things like 10 years in advance and actually have it spring forth and bear fruit, and usually like in a meaningful way. So I guess that's the battle that they're gonna have to go on. But who would you cast, and who would you have direct this?
Yeah, so my choice for this one was I'd like to see Elizabeth Debicki as Supergirl. I think
Interesting.
she has the look. She's
Dropped it deep.
the blonde hair, the thinness. She's tall, and that's kind of the way that she's drawn, especially in this particular series. And I just think she's a great actress too. And she hasn't really, I mean, she was in like Tenet, and I think that's probably like the biggest thing she's been in other than The Crown. But as far as movies go, she hasn't really had her big like breakout yet. And then, maybe let's put this one in the hands of a capable female director. I went with Emerald Fennell for the director of Promising Young Woman. I think she has the sensibilities for something like this.
Hmm.
And let's give her an action project.
Hell yeah. No, that's inspired. Both of them are. Debicki, God, I can't look at her the same way after seeing did you ever see the movie where she's like a pedophile with another guy and Laura Dern's?
No.
I forgot the name of it. It's a fucked up movie. But anyway, she's in that, and that's what I associate her with. But I definitely see what you're saying about her physicality. She's lithe, she's panther-like. And that's definitely the qualities that I get from the art that I've seen. I went in a very, very different direction. I went teeny bopper because Warner Brothers is kind of grooming Lily Rose Depp to be some kind of, something for them with that HBO show that she has with The Weeknd. So she's building up to something, and she's blonde. She's Instagram, a little too Instagram maybe, but I don't know. I really wasn't thinking too deeply, I'll confess. But Jane Goldman, I really think should get the director's chair sometime. She's been a long time producer and screenwriter on a lot of the Matthew Vaughn's movies, all of the Kick-Ass and the Kingsman
X-Men.
series and X-Men as well. So this lady, she deserves her due. I don't know, maybe I'm giving her too much credit, but I kind of, now that I know that this is kind of like a sci-fi action western inspired source material, I think she's even more perfect now. I think she's exactly the lady for the job. Because otherwise, I think Hollywood will gladly hand this off to the lady who directed The Woman King, possibly. Who knows? But I'm not. That's where I'm coming at it from. But now we got to talk about the real elephant in the room, which is Batfleck is now dead. Long live the new Bat. Because he's a daddy now. Isn't Batfleck perfect to be Daddy Bat? I don't know, but we're going to be getting a Grant Morrison inspired, Brave and the Bold titled Batman movie about him and Damian, and that sounds pretty fucking fun. But I guess why call it the Brave and the Bold? What's your theory on that?
Well, I think that might be like one of the subtitles for one of the arcs of this series, the Grant Morrison comic.
Okay.
I think that's why. But yeah, because it is based on a Grant Morrison series. Probably his longest arc of doing Batman.
I own every issue of it too.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's a great arc. I love that arc, and it's probably more among Morrison's more acceptable or accessible works, I should say. It's a lot easier to read than a lot of his stuff, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's
a little less esoteric, a little more straightforward.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this comic, it's basically Bruce Wayne trying to break Damian of his sort of League of Shadows programming. And Talia al Ghul pops up, Ra's al Ghul pops up. And as I said earlier, not a film you want to gamble with. So I don't know if you wanted to get into our picks.
Yeah,
but,
I'll advance forward.
I want to go safe with this one. And
Okay.
I mean really safe. So director, I got Denis Villeneuve.
That's
because
right.
he is probably one of the more capable action directors. He is very moldable. He can do, whatever it seems like. He can adapt stuff. He can do original stuff. He can do sequels, anything. And then I got Jamie Dornan as Batman. I think he's the right age for having, like a 12 or 13-year-old kid. And he's got the look. He hasn't really done any like superhero stuff. So, you're not going to see him on screen and immediately think of that Marvel character he played like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, because that's the trouble with these fan castings. I always have to be like, wait a minute, no, I can't do Will Poulter. He's whatever the fuck he is now.
Yeah. And then I got for his Damien, Felix Jameson, who people would probably recognize as Paul from Raised by Wolves, because I think he's got the look and he's got just kind of that scummy little 12-year-old who you want to punch in the face type feel. So.
Absolutely. Because I struggled with trying to find an actor who was the right age. Because you don't realize how old some of these little twerps actually are until you look at their bios. But I really, even though he's like 15, I think Roman Griffin Davis can pull off the little boy for a few more years at least. And I think Jake Gyllenhaal should finally just fucking be Batman already. I know he was in Spider-Man. But I think, he's hitting the right point in his life and his career where the time has come for him to just put the cowl on, goddammit. It's supposedly one of his greatest regrets. And I think George Miller should direct it. Because this guy never got his chance to make his Justice League movie, and I think he should step into the seat. We need, like you say, safe. Get an elder statesman. get an action guy, and get somebody who's at least an auteur to like give us some kind of fun roller coaster that, you know, will be visually exciting as will be, you know, as much of a nerd pleaser, hopefully. So that's where I was coming at it from.
You also, you know, I like your pick too because you want to cast somebody who's going to separate themselves from Robert Pattinson. You know, somebody who looks different and is going to play it different, because you don't want two like thin, sinewy Batmen. You know, you want somebody who's going to bulk up or something.
Yeah, like if you've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in that boxing movie where he was just like a shredded savage, like he can do it. And he can do like Michael Keaton crazy too. So there's a lightness to Jake Gyllenhaal that I think you kind of need to have, especially when he's trying to break through the hard exterior of his assassin child. But yeah, because this is a strange predicament. Is this the first time ever that we've had two different actors playing a character like Batman at the same time? I guess Joker and Joker, maybe, but not simultaneously. Because now we have proper Elseworlds. Because we have a confirmation of the Batman sequel's title, Batman 2. But we know nothing else about it. We just have like a release date.
Yeah, well, actually, no date yet on that one. Second film of a planned trilogy. That's something new that we learned. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much to really say about this. I think that Matt Reeves has set up his villains. You know, I don't think it's even really worth speculating about that, because he's got Penguin, he's got Riddler, and then of course he's got Joker, which he's hinted at. And so
Catwoman can always come back.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have too much to say about this. I'm glad it's happening, and I think that if there's one property in like the DC stable that can have two things going at once, it's Batman.
I mean, they've proved it with the comic books alone. Like, no character has more books than that fucking, you know, billionaire. It's not fair. Oof, now we're getting to the good stuff. Now we're getting to the deep cuts, everybody, because this is what blew my mind. They're swinging for the fucking fences. We aren't that far removed from them, like, outright mothballing a Swamp Thing pilot for some reason, because I was excited for that. But now we're going to get a movie. And, you know, this is really, you know, important comic book lore-wise, historically. Is this going to be more Alan Moore inspired, or is there a recent run that they're going to be pulling from?
Yeah, I think if they're going to do this, I think they're going to probably pull from a recent run. When you think about kind of the recent Swamp Thing runs that are notable, you think about Scott Snyder's run from the early 2010s. I'm not so sure they're going to do that one, because that one's very, very tied up in the in Animal Man.
Yes, it is.
And so
the Rot.
Yeah, the Rot, and so it's an event book too. So I don't think they're going to do that. But then you think about the other notable Swamp Thing arc, and you think about the very, very recent Ram V's arc. He did 16 issues that went from 2021 to 2022. And he introduced a new Swamp Thing, a guy by the name of Levi Kami, and that's what I think they're gonna do. I think they're gonna take from that. It's a very self-contained series. It is only 16 issues. Sorry.
And because I had no familiarity with the character, but that really informed your selection for who should play him.
Yeah, he's of Indian descent in the comics, so you know I was really, really struggling to come up with like Indian actors, because there really isn't that many, especially young ones.
You took the only good one for real.
Yeah. So yeah, Dev Patel. I mean, originally my thought was, you know, maybe one of the guys from RRR, but yeah, Dev Patel is probably more suited for this. And this can get really weird, and I hope they go really weird with this. You know, bringing in the supernatural elements of the DC universe with the green, and so you need somebody weird to do this. And I went with Boots Riley.
That's an inspired fucking selection right there, I have to say.
Yeah, he's never done anything like this before.
He's too much of a communist to do that. Work for the man like that? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, probably. I mean, this will never happen, but oh man, it would be awesome if it did.
It would be really, really cool. I haven't thought about the last movie he made in a while, but all I can think about is Horsecocks for some reason. I went in a really, I think, uninspired and safe direction. I was like, what actor can I fucking pick? Oh shit, who's got brown skin and could pull off Indian? Alex Wolff, okay. Oh, Ari Aster could do something really fucking cool with body horror and just horror in general. Because I want a Swamp Thing movie that will freak me the fuck out, make me feel scuzzy, and he's the hip new kid on the block. We'll see how, Beau is Afraid, goes. But based on what we've gotten from the dude, I think he'd be a really neat choice. He might be a little bit safe. It might derail his career, but this is the collaboration I'd like to see for this character. And yeah, because unfortunately, the next section is just going to be a lot of me talking, Matt, so I apologize ahead of time.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Because we also got informed that, like, one of my favorite comic books of all time is going to get a fucking movie, and James Gunn cares about it deeply. It's like his pet project that this thing is here. We're getting the Authority. These Wildstorm characters that, Jim Lee brought with when DC bought him. They were originally created by Warren Ellis and drawn by Brian Hitch. They had a Stormwatch run that created them and brought them into the world. And then they killed Stormwatch with a collaboration with Alien. It was a crossover with Alien, and he killed off his team. So he was left with the Authority. And I'm nerding out right now because this is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. They are making this, Matt. They're making this fucking thing into a movie. and it's going to be important, and they're going to be popping up in other movies, I get the sense, because the Authority are these superhumans who are just like, we are fucking tired of you little people, telling us what we should be doing. We know better. We are smarter and more powerful than you, and we're going to make you behave. And they kind of become they're an authoritarian super team that keeps the world in check, keeps other superheroes in check, and protects the world from threats. And they fight other dimensions. They fucking kill God. It's one of those. I have those issues in my fucking bookshelf. I bought them at New York Comic Con on the show floor. And
that's right.
I am so fucking excited for this. And I just can't believe it's happening. But I worry that they're going to maybe make it too much like modern comics. But they show all the art from the original run, so that gives me hope. But what did you think? Is this a bad move? Is this a mistake on their part? Because no one knows about this or cares about it but me.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the Authority is kind of one of my comics blind spots, so I didn't even really bother with the casting or anything for this because I still have to read it. I do plan on reading it, but I think, just looking at it on the surface, I think that Gunn can probably do the same thing to this, kind of what he did for the Guardians of the Galaxy, where nobody gave a shit about the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just this weird thing that was off on its own with a bunch of like C and D listers, and he made it one of a lot of people's favorite series in comics, and they're all household names now, and so I think he could do it.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, and this is relevant to comic book movie history. If you did not have the Authority, you would not have had the follow-up run, because it was Warren Ellis for 12 issues, and then it was like 24 issues of Mark Millar or more. I forget how many. But he and Brian Hitch then jumped ship and went to Marvel and created a series called The Ultimates, which laid the foundation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe you all know and love today. If this series doesn't exist, you don't have cinema as you know it today. So it's really awesome that they're going to get their day in the sun, because they are important and they're really fucking cool. They're a little bit of their time, but they were also kind of made for the mores of today, because these characters are a woke-ass wish list of like the kind of like identity politics things that just get pushed into other movies and shit and comics and whatever. They're baked into this, and they have to be this way for it to work. So yeah, here's my dream casting of the Authority. I thought about Emily Blunt, but Emilia Clarke is in the family, and she needs something new. And she's British, and I think she should be Jenny Sparks, the spirit of the 20th century, who she's a century baby, these people in the Wildstorm universe who are long-lived, and you're born every 100 years. And they can, be Tarzan, or they can be people like her, or like Elijah Snow from Planetary and other series that I've talked about before. But she has electrical powers, and she's kind of on a ticking clock, at least when the series was originally written. So they might go with Jenny Quantum instead, the 21st century spirit equivalent of her. Because in the series, she dies as soon as 1999 turns over to 2000. It's a spoiler alert. Like, that's kind of, something about her character that gives her a fatalistic edge that, is really fun. Joel Edgerton, has he been in a superhero movie? I have no idea. But he'd be a pretty good Jack Hawksmoor, who's the god of cities. He's empowered by architecture because he was abducted by aliens. So no idea if he'll make it into this or not. He's really bizarre, but he's really cool. Because one of the fights takes place in Mexico City because it's the biggest population center on the planet at the time. Not right now, honey. Could you ask mommy? November says hi, everyone. So yeah, that's Jenny Sparks and Jack Hawksmoor. I'll advance as much as I can here so we can move along, if I can. And then, of course, we got the big gay love story of all time. My Matt Bomer would be Apollo, and Luke Evans, also gay, it turns out, would be the Midnighter. So these two dudes will be macking on each other and punching people through walls, and then they get married, and then they raise the spirit of the 21st century together, and they're my favorite gay couple of all time. And I think these two would be perfect for it. Let's move on ahead here. Storm Reed is an up-and-comer. I think I lost her there. Where'd she go? And I think she'd be pretty good as the engineer. She's a Tony Stark knockoff who's covered in nanites and creates guns on the fly, and she creates we need some kind of device to handle this problem. Okay, I'm making it. Michael Huseman, who is Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones. He'll be the Doctor. He had picked him because he's Dutch, and he's also in the family. He's an HBO guy, Warner Brothers guy. But the Doctor is the shaman of the 21st century, so he's just on drugs all the time and communing with the fifth dimension, and he can turn bullets into flowers and things like that. Very hippy-dippy sort of a hero. And then Kelsey Abil is in Yellowstone, and Swift is a Tibetan bird person. A lot of these characters are like alien experiments, you'll come to find, because that's what the Wildstorm universe was defined by. And not a lot of Tibetan actresses out there, so forgive me for not picking one. But I think David Lowery really has the gravitas and the auteur sensibilities that the Authority requires. This shouldn't just be spectacle. It really should penetrate deeply into whatever the fuck it is that they're doing with this expanded shared universe. And I think it'll just be really exciting to see him do a movie like this.
Yeah. And he has experience with working within the system too, because he's done those Disney movies.
Exactly.
Pete's Dragon, I think he did. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was just so impressed with the Green Knight that I really want to see what he can do with this kind of thing. Because in some ways, as much as the DC pantheon like to consider themselves gods, the Authority kind of manifest 21st century gods in a to a sense. Like whatever Warren Ellis was high on in the 90s, that's what these characters are. But that's the Authority. We're also getting some information on existing films. Shazam 2, I guess, is still a thing. I still confess in time I haven't seen Shazam yet.
It's okay.
It's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
We also got The Flash still coming for some reason. But what do I hear about the Blue Beetle not being a part of this? It's just its own damn thing. Why do that?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, I think they want to just leave it open, would be my guess. If it's successful, they'll put it in. If it's not successful, they won't. But
Okay.
I really think this quote is interesting, where the exact quote that Gunn said was Shazam 2 leads into Flash, which resets everything. Blue
Flashpoint.
Beetle is Yeah, exactly. Blue Beetle is completely disconnected, and then Aquaman 2 leads directly into our new Superman film.
So yeah, what the
And
fuck is
so,
Momoa's Aquaman gonna say when it's suddenly somebody new?
yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think that this might be a little bit of James Gunn's like inner burgeoning studio executive like double speak coming out, because I doubt a lot of these films don't matter and aren't going to matter. Like Shazam 2, I think that isn't really going to matter, and Blue Beetle isn't going to matter. I think they probably did some reshoots on Flash to make it connect to exactly what you said, to do some sort of flashpoint so that they could reset the universe. And then I think as far as Aquaman 2 goes, when he says that it leads directly into the new Superman, I'm sure it's literally probably just an after credit scene or something like that.
Interesting. Okay. And then we have something called Creature Commandos. That's going to be an animated thing that's got some very familiar characters in there, including Phosphorus Man, who the general public may remember from recently helping Joker give birth to a baby of some kind recently. I don't know too much about that, but Frankenstein's going to be in there, so I'm excited for that part of it. And then of course Waller is going to have her own show with Peacemaker adjacent.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
wonder the one thing I wonder about this. I mean, there isn't that many details, but you kind of wonder if this is gonna be like the sequel to Peacemaker. If they're like not gonna do a second season of Peacemaker, and this
Yeah.
is kind of what we're gonna get. So, I sort of wonder that, because he did say some of the cast from Peacemaker is coming into this new show. So, yeah, it makes me think that they're not gonna do another season of Peacemaker.
And I wouldn't be too upset about that. It stands alone. Like going
Hmm.
back into that well is not going to be as magical the second time around. It's like making Ghostbusters 2. You have to really fucking know what you're doing if you're going to try and replicate the charm, the synergy that had. But
Yeah.
anything else that we I guess really have to say about these? Let me check the document here.
Not really,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I think the more interesting stuff is coming up here with the TV series,
Yeah, because
or the live action TV series, I should say.
yeah, they're going all out. And they drove this point home, or at least Gunn drove this point home. It's like, yeah, we want to have a presence on TV, and it's all the pieces matter, everybody, because we're getting a True Detective inspired Green Lantern show starring Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Like, now nobody
Yeah,
can be
very.
mad. No one can be mad about which Green Lantern they've chosen. Like, there's some like creative choices here that only a nerd would know to be delicate with, and that's one of them.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most interesting out of any of these announcements, especially because they're, calling back to True Detective. And then the other thing he mentioned that, kind of stuck out to me was he very specifically said terrestrial
Yeah,
based.
why is
So,
that? Why are they so spooked about space?
I think there's part of me that really wants that stuff, that wants, Oa and wants all the alien Green Lanterns and stuff. But then the other part of me thinks, this is probably the right move, because when you look at Phase 4 of the MCU, they're building out their world way too fast, and that's what I would be afraid of here, is that they would
Mm.
just immediately go into space and immediately throw in all these other planets and universes and the Guardians, and it would just be way too much, way too fast, and that's kind of been the downfall of the Phase 4 of the MCU, because you have the quantum universe and the multiverse, and you have Tao Lo from Shang-Chi, and you have the Celestials from Eternals, and the Realm of the
Yeah,
Gods from Thor. And
Jesus, you're
so
right. It's really busy.
yeah, it's way too much. And so I think this is probably the right move, even though it might not be as exciting as like spacefaring Green Lantern.
Save
But
it for season 2. I think you're right. Like, they have to prove that they got something. and they have to
Mhm.
like, because it's, with a movie maybe you could rationalize it. It didn't work so well last time. Now did it? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
yeah. So now we're. But do you think that it's going to be like Jon Stewart? Oh, I'm a new Green Lantern, and Hal Jordan's showing him the ropes. Is that the kind of show you think we're going to get? Is this Space Cops? It's like,
Gosh,
oh, I'm new on the beat. Oh, I've been here forever. It's like, you don't know the kind of shit
I'm
I put up
sure.
with, rookie. Like, is that the kind of thing we're gonna get?
I think so. I mean, I think this is going to be like the two detectives who are, solving this crime or this mystery, and they have conflicting ideas of the world, and they have conflicting morals and politics, and that's exactly what it's going to be.
Right on. Should be fascinating. Which begs the question: who the fuck do you put in charge of something like this?
Yeah.
And I really really liked your selections. If this thing will get to them, my God, to advance through all that talking. There we go.
Yeah, so
Because
my casting was Glenn Powell, and I went. You know what? I'll be honest. I went with the internet on this one. Glenn Powell has been the Hal Jordan favorite ever since he was in Top Gun Maverick, and I think that they're on point with this one. And then Omari Hardwick as John Stewart
yeah,
because he's got the look, and he's a pretty good actor too, in my opinion. He's the right age too. I mean, both these guys, the right age. I'm always looking for, I'm trying to figure out where Gunn is going to place all these people, all these actors, and all these characters, and I think with a lot of them, he's going to go between like 30 and 40 probably.
yeah.
But
Because yeah, then you will get a 10-year commitment out of him. The actor is ready to retire from superherodom, and you just hit the
mhm.
reset button, have another a crisis movie, and boom, you have a new cast. It's genius. It's brilliant. I don't know why anyone else is doing it yet. Because yeah, that's
Mhm.
where I'm at. That's where I'm coming at it from. Um,
And then yeah, for my showrunners, I guess I kind of chose either Ben Stiller or Sam Esmail from Mr. Robot. And Ben Stiller's proven himself at this point as a good filmmaker, and he knows how to do those heady ideas. He also knows how to do a story about two very, very different guys, trying to do something. I'm speaking, of course, about Escape at Dannemora, where you have two very, very different convicts, and so that he has experience with that, and Sam Esmail, I think, is also got those. He's got that lo-fi sci-fi down pat, which is, I think, kind of what this is going to be, at least in the first season, where we're not going to get a bunch of, big brain sci-fi. So that's where
yeah,
I was coming at it from.
because you know, I did the exact same thing you did. I also just saw, Top Gun Maverick. I also saw him in clips from Devotion, and I was like, this is the only man for the job. Glenn Powell is the only guy who could do this. And for Jon Stewart, I don't know. I tried to find what I thought was a 1-to-1, as far as Glenn Powell is concerned. And Jesse Williams is a dude I've been waiting to have an opportunity like this, and I think he'd be perfectly fine in the role. He's obviously fit. And yeah, I went to Severance and said, hey, Dan Erickson, why don't you just do something really heady and crazy? Because yeah, if you're going to invoke True Detective, you better get, like a big gun to handle it. And he's a hot young name, and I doubt he has the time. But yeah, that's who I thought of when it came down to it. Ooh. And we have another one in the middle here that neither of us really know what to do with, which is this Themyscira set Paradise Lost, Game of Thrones inspired. So I guess we all know who the man for the job is, don't we, Matt? But as far as
Yeah. Oh
casting,
yeah.
who the fucking knows who the characters are even going to be? They're just going to be making
Yeah.
this shit up. Do whatever the hell you want, you know?
We really need, I think, need some more details on this. There really isn't that many, and I guess the big question with this show is, does Wonder Woman make an appearance or not?
Does Gal
And
Gadot return?
oh God, I don't think so.
You don't
No,
think so?
yeah, I doubt it. But
So, but is Momoa going to stick around into the new era as Aquaman, or is he getting recast as well?
That's another one that they've been saying sort of conflicting things about. I don't know if you heard from a couple weeks ago, he was talking about like wanting to play like Lobo
That's
and
right.
yeah, and so it was and then there was a quote going around out there that, you know, we don't necessarily need or people can play more than one character basically is what I think Gunn said. So even though Momoa played Aquaman in the Snyder DCU, he could totally play Lobo in this new Gunn universe.
If he's
So
done with the character, why not? Right? That's really
yeah.
that's fun. That's really JoJo's Bizarre Adventure of them to do it like that. Okay, very interesting. Because yeah, those were some questions that have been coming up. Especially from some of the skeptics. But we have no fucking clue. So you have fun
Yeah.
casting that yourselves. But we got fucking Booster Gold to think about, man. This is another show that, or that whatever they've been promising for a really really long time, has never quite materialized. But it's our old buddy from the future, loser from the future, steals technology, takes a time machine so he can be a hero in the past and be cool. And this is all going to be about imposter syndrome, apparently.
Mhm. Yeah, this, when you look at ever since his inception, when you look at Booster Gold's sort of arc through comic books through the years, I think you have like the perfect arc for the show because when he was originally introduced, he was a vain showboat who sort of used his knowledge of the future to, do like heroics basically. And as time has gone on, they've injected more comedy into the character. They've injected more actual like likability into the character. And then also they've given him sort of a tragic backstory, and he's constantly trying to win people's approval, and he's no longer just like a dickhead showboat. And so that's the arc for the show right there. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we get to casting?
No, I'm good to go. I think you covered all the bases.
Yeah. So for me, I've been looking for Boyd Holbrook to get his sort of time in the sun. He's kind of played the side characters for a long time now. He was recently in Tulsa King, and he was also the villain of Logan, the Logan movie, the X-Men movie, and yeah, I think that he could make a really, really good Booster Gold. He has the charm, he has the charisma, he also has like the shit-eating grin. And then for showrunners, I base this purely off of that sort of log line they gave for the show, but Alex Berg, Bill Hader, the duo behind Barry, because when I look at that log line for the Booster Gold show, that was immediately what I thought of was
Mm-hmm.
Barry, because that's what Barry has turned into. So
Gotcha. Very inspired choices. I also like Boyd Holbrook. I went in a very different direction. I selected a Jacob Elordi from Euphoria. He's a douchebag, but there's humanity and depth and charm to the guy still. Even from the character he plays, and you just get that sense that there's dimension to him as an actor. And I feel like if there's ever anyone who needs to deal with their fucking imposter syndrome, it's Sam Levinson. So he should make this show. They can kind of make it scuzzy. They can kind of make it a commentary on like modern, influencer culture or something. I think they could do some interesting things with it. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I kind of threw this one away. I like your selection a little bit more than mine, frankly. But yeah, there was also just a lot of quotes to dig through. But that's everything that we found out about. My head is reeling. We've basically done a full episode just on DC Comics. So yeah, just to kind of like run it through, like what else is there to say?
well, I was really, really sort of inspired by the quote that he gave that there will be both R-rated and PG-13, films in this series or shows in this series, which I think, again, completely inspired choice, definitely going the right direction. I really, really hate how the MCU has done that, where they're like only PG-13 only ever. And that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just I think that's a really bad way to go about it. It's a lot of times it's not true to what some of those comics are, where they're a little bit more on the R-rated side. So yeah, I think that's an inspired choice. And I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention was I want to know where you think this is all leading to as far as what big event is going to happen. What is this leading to? What's the Justice League film of this chapter or whatever?
No idea. That's the problem. Like, you don't get any good guideposts about like who the villains are gonna be in any of these movies, and there's just a lot of questions. Hey, honey, why don't you grab the iPad and take it downstairs to mommy? Or ask her to watch it downstairs. Ask Mama to watch Peppa Pig downstairs. We're not talking about Peppa Pig up here. Oh my god. Ugh, God, what was your question again? Where do I think the villain? Yeah. What's the big picture here? And that's really hard to say. Like, do they just go full Crisis on Infinite Earths right away? Doubtful. But there's got to be some kind of, you can't do dip back into Darkseid. Do you go that direction? Like, you're a little bit more learned on the comic books, especially right now. What character would you put as the big bad, pulling the strings and setting everything up?
Yeah, it is a good question because the first thing that I kind of noticed was when you look at the actual name for this, I don't know if we mentioned it at the beginning, but this chapter that Gunn revealed is called Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. And you would think maybe that's the title of like a arc from the comics, but it's not. The only thing that could possibly be referencing is a animated film from 2020 that was like an Elseworld story, but I think that I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they just like the name Gods and
It's a
Monsters.
little uninspired, in my opinion.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, they
For
could have
sure.
done something way better than that.
But if I'm being honest, I don't know if we're gonna get like a big Avengers movie for this first chapter. Gunn made the remark that this is only part of chapter 1 and
That's
that
right.
they're still sketching out chapter 2 too. And so I don't know if we're going to get that big Avengers type movie, but if we did, I think it's going to be like a smaller event. Like a lot of times when people talk about the MCU, they talk about Captain America Civil War as being like a mini Avengers film.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best we're gonna get with this chapter 1, and we might get something like Identity Crisis, which is kind of it's an event, but it's a smaller event. It's not
Okay.
it's not like huge like Crisis on Infinite Earths or Dark Crisis or whatever. So
What if we got?
that's what I think is
yeah,
gonna happen.
What if we just got a world's finest movie? Not Batman v Superman, but just a collab. Like something along those lines. It's a little safer just to use those two characters as a team up, and then to have them go, "Hey man, just the two of us really wasn't enough. We might need to call some folks." I don't know. There's a lot that they could do. But I don't know. I might be jumping ahead on some of the topics, but that there is to talk about. But I also fucking loved how Saffron was just like, "Yo, Batgirl fucking sucks, and you all know it. It would have damaged the brand. We still love the people. We want to work with the people. But that fucking movie was a liability, and it deserved to get dumped into the junk pile." And I respected the fuck out of that, because there's a lot of naysayers and a lot of harping going on from the Batwoman team and the Star. And is it dead? Here, give this cable to mommy and tell her to plug it in.
I think it's the smart decision, and in all likelihood, they want to do their own Batgirl. So you can't do a Batgirl movie and then immediately reintroduce another Batgirl like 2 years later or something. So they probably want to do their own thing.
And here's the beauty of it. They can just poop it out as an Elseworlds when they've decided to not write it off as a tax, tax break anymore. That's always in the back pocket. Someone can buy it from them, or they can just be like, "Oh, a bonus Elseworlds," just on HBO Max, or just whatever the fuck it's going to be called, Max. I don't even. That's a different topic.
Max Discovery.
Max
or whatever.
Discovery. Yeah, because that's the future for some of those projects. like what are some Elseworlds, stories that you could see them doing and having some fun with? Or is it going to be a concept that dies on the vine as soon as they're done with this Batman trilogy and I presume a Joker trilogy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I honestly think that they're gonna use the term Elseworlds as just a differentiator between stuff in our universe and stuff that's not.
I see.
I don't think they're actually gonna try and, go out and make those. Elseworlds is once the Joker movies are done and once the Reeves trilogy is done, Elseworlds is gonna be like strictly like family animated kids films, I bet.
I think you're right about that. And will they even bother with a logo, or is that necessary? Like, our audience is going to need to know that it's not mainline continuity. Like, are they going to need a signifier?
I would hope people are smart enough to realize that. I'm sure that they'll probably have, they'll have like Marvel has, they'll have a logo with all the fanfare that they put before all the DC Universe movies, and then for the non DC Universe stuff, they won't have that basically.
Fair enough. Okay. Anything else you wanted to kind of bring up before we moved on to the watch list?
I don't think so. I think that was pretty much it. That's kind of the extent of the information we have now, and it's probably not worth speculating beyond that. But yeah, we will probably talk about it in the future.
We have a lot of movies to actually care about. Because it's nice to actually be excited about comic book movies for a change. Because I was ready to not be excited for whatever the fuck they were gonna do, but they've caught me hook, line, and sinker, and I'll suffer the consequences when it all goes pear shaped.